Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Shamrock Sportscast, brought to you by Sam, Evan, and Aiden. Today is a big day. Got some Westfield spring sports to talk about for the first time all year, as well as breaking down a devastating sectional basketball loss a couple weeks ago. Before we dive into, some of us would view as the best time of the year, March Madness, talking about our brackets as well as just some other trends with everything going on. Maybe hit a little bit of NFL free agency after that, but it's going to be a fun episode. Definitely a wide variety of topics we're going to be going over. Evan, start us off here. What have you seen so far from the spring sports?
So I've seen a lot of stuff, a lot of success from boys volleyball, which I'm very pleased to, talk about. We're 2-0 to start the season with 2 dominating wins over McCutcheon and Lafayette Jeff. Lafayette Jeff coming last night, McCutcheon coming from last Saturday. We have 2 games coming up to end this week out. Tonight at home versus Franklin Central, and then tomorrow at HSE, which I would encourage, if you can, make it out to those games because we have a very, very entertaining team to watch. We have a state contending team, and that's not an understatement at all.
No, not at all.
If you walk around the team and ask, where do you guys think you're going to finish? Almost all of them will say we're going to state at least. So they're a very entertaining team. Boys lacrosse, they started off 1-2. They had a really solid win versus Northridge on the 11th, but 2 kind of bad, I would say bad losses. 1 13-point loss to Carmel, which is never good because, everyone hates losing to Carmel. And then a double overtime loss to Heritage Christian, 7-6. But fear not, Westfield lacrosse fans. We have a good team this year. We're looking good. Alex Dickmeyer certainly leading the charge there. We have a game tonight at Cathedral, I believe. It's at Cathedral. Oh, no, wait, it's a home game. Okay, so tonight at home versus Cathedral, and then Friday at home versus Park Tudor. We have a lot of home games this year, mainly because, not a lot of teams have facilities to host them. So if you want to come out and, support your lacrosse teams, you can do so. I say lacrosse teams because the girls lacrosse team is 1-1. I believe they won last night at Bishop Chatard. The score has not been posted yet, but they did win. And then they had a 19-9 loss versus Noblesville last week. But 2 really entertaining teams. The girls are looking to make a state run as well, which from what I've seen, at practices and such, they have the ability to do so. So we're looking strong to start spring sports here. But I just want to quickly, go over that, what you said, devastating sectional loss in basketball. What did you guys see that really triggered the loss?
We just couldn't close out. We had one of the best first halves we've had all season, and we didn't even really have a bad third quarter, I would say. And then fourth quarter, I don't know if Noblesville just stepped it up a whole nother notch defensively, which they did, but we just couldn't hit anything. Everybody, I feel like, was kind of like losing their magic. Our defense was falling apart a little bit, and Noblesville was hitting. They were hitting all their shots. That's really all you can say about that game. The tide completely shifted. But I will say this. If there's any school... Okay, so if you were to tell me that Westfield basketball won the first game and lost the second game, that first win is the school I would want us to beat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's no better way to beat Carmel at Carmel in a fourth quarter comeback. But, it sucks because Noblesville did the exact same thing to us 3 days later, and it sucks, but the team will be very good next year. And I think there's a lot of potential. There's no reason to be sad. You only graduated 3 seniors, and those are big seniors, though.
Yeah.
But Westwood basketball has a lot of potential, and I think they'll do a lot in the next few years.
Yeah, like you said, Aiden, this was just pretty much the exact same game as what we saw against Carmel, our little game day. We talked about that game, and frustrating to be on the losing end of that, but I think one thing that stood out to me was once Noblesville started to make their run in the second half, it felt like they absolutely ramped up their physicality, and the refs could not adjust to that. And I don't think the refs were bad. I just think that there was a little bit of an inconsistency between the first half and their the way they called the game, especially, in the front court,
Yeah.
as well as the second half. Just seemed like a definitely a difference. And certainly I had Westfield rattled because they, I would say they weren't necessarily prepared for that level of physicality that they saw in the second half. And it led to a lot of turnovers and runouts and just things that allowed Noblesville to get back in the game and get back in the game rather quickly.
Yeah.
So it was frustrating as a fan to watch that. But I think we cannot talk about this game without talking about senior Sam Bishop and the performance that he put on.
Oh my goodness.
19 points, 8 for 11 from the field. He hit, let's see here, he hit 2 of his 4 threes that he took. Sam really emerged as one of our best players at the end of the season. And, credit to him for sticking with it and giving it his all throughout the season because, when things weren't going as great in the start and middle of the season, he could have easily folded and given up and packed it in. But, he really emerged as one of the key factors in making this run that we saw.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly led the charge in this one. Someone that I wanted to see a little bit more out of was Alex Romack. Before the game, I was talking with a couple people that were close and kind of knew the game plan, and I was like, what are they going to try and do? What is Noblesville going to try and do with Alex? And they said, they're going to double team him. And so I said, okay, so that means everyone else needs to hit, and we'll be fine. And Sam hit, but Alex and Trey really struggled, and that's part of the reason. That's one of the main reasons why I think we lost this game, is because Alex was not as productive as he was, in the Carmel game or in any games before that. Trey also struggled in this game. He had 7 points. He went 1 for 7 on field goals. So if we look at it if we take a step back and look at it from a broader standpoint, Alex and Trey combined for 13 points out of the team's 45, which usually they combine for over 50%, maybe more. And that is the main reason why I'd say we lost this game. Sam Bishop, he stepped up. He hit like every impossible shot. He went in for some crazy drives. He had some crazy jumpers, and almost all of them went in. I don't know what I was thinking whenever I was watching this unfold. I was like, he just woke up and chose dominance this morning. But there's really not much you can do about it at that point.
Aiden, let me ask you this. What does this game and the result of this game look like if Trey Buchanan doesn't suffer the ankle injury earlier in the week?
Ooh, that's a good question because he re-aggravated it in the game as well. He had to sit for a couple minutes. I feel like it definitely hindered him a little bit. You see him shoot 1 for 7, obviously. Not the ideal percentage. And if you think about it, if he hits just one of those shots, that's a win. And it's so unfortunate. It's really just I know it's not his fault. It's just like kind of sad because if you look at it, if he's fully healthy in this game, I would say we probably come out on top and we probably keep the foot on the gas in the third and fourth quarter.
It's not a stretch to say that at all.
Yeah. And so it's just really unfortunate, and I feel really bad for him as well. So, if he just, it's, I don't know. It's tough. It's tough because I think we probably should have won the game in the first place, but add that factor on, it's like, yeah, we definitely should have won,
Yeah, and specifically on the defensive side of the ball too, when you're playing on a hurt ankle, your mobility is limited, then it's a lot harder to stay in front of quick guards.
Yeah.
Aaron Fine, who, had been solid all year, but really wasn't, a factor in that first game when we played him. Quick guard, like I said, able to get to the rim, able to create shots with Trey guarding him. He had 15, 5 for 11 from the field, and essentially was one of the bigger parts of that second half comeback for Noblesville. So yeah, certainly this one's gonna sting for a little while. Being Noblesville and our track record against them and allowing them to steal one from us in such a big environment, it's gonna sting. But at the end of the day, I think all three of us would agree that this was a successful season for the Rocks.
Yeah, 100%. It's nothing to look down on. 16-8, very successful. We had very similar success to last year, in terms of record wise. Say that Trey is not injured and we win this game handsomely. That would lead us to a sectional championship against Zionsville. Would we have carried that momentum and that success into that game?
I don't know, just because why can't I think of Logan Imes?
Yeah.
Logan Imes was outstanding this season. Probably the best player in the HGC.
Him or Jalen?
I was about to say, yeah.
He's going to Penn State, who's in the tournament, but
Barely.
Yeah, they are.
Barely. We'll talk about that experience in a little bit.
Yeah, Logan Imes. I don't know. Here's the thing about Logan Imes. He's so in between positions. His height is probably between a 2 and a 3. But he plays and has the speed of a point guard.
Yeah.
And when you're facing up against a guy who is that tall and that fast, it's he's committed to a Big Ten school. It's intimidating, and he's so hard to stop easily. And I don't know if we come away with that one, just because Logan Imes alone would be insane. But then you have to also add on their good role players too. I mean, they surround him with a good team.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know if I would count Westfield out. Obviously, they would still have a chance, but I feel like if they met, I feel like it would be pretty close. But I feel like Zionsville would barely get the edge.
I feel okay. This is random, but this is just what I'm thinking right now. Would you guys say it would be a good comparison to compare Logan Imes and Fletcher Lawyer? As in terms of shooting ability and talent, where that's where they're going to be used their freshman year.
I don't really think so.
I wouldn't say so.
I think they're pretty different players, and the fact that Logan's more of a true point guard, whereas Fletcher's, I don't want to say strictly, create shots, but that's more his thing. He's not really looking to create shots for other players.
Yeah, I would say Logan Imes just more of a. I would say Logan actually drives a lot.
Yeah.
Logan kind of drives, dishes it out. Fletcher Lawyer is kind of like a catch and shoot 3 in the corner type of guy, in my opinion.
Whatever works for you, I guess. But nonetheless, great season by Westfield basketball. The people that are going to be taking our places in the podcast next year will certainly be covering them thoroughly. So what do we want to move on to now? I can quickly preview, the baseball season if we want to.
One more thing here, to answer that question, whether I think Westfield would have beaten Zionsville. Like Aiden said, it's really hard to tell. I think we would have had a really great shot to do it. Sort of having that chip on your shoulder after the regular season game, the buzzer beater. I think that's the sort of momentum that can carry you over a team when you have those bad memories from a previous experience. However, like Aiden was talking about, Logan Imes was on a tear there at the end of the season, averaging 28.5 in those last 2 games that he played. And, I think the thing for Noblesville that allowed them to match up well was the fact that they had a dude who was very similar in Luke Almodovar. Unfortunately, Westfield was able to defend Logan pretty well in the regular season, but, Charles is not yet at the level of a guy like Luke Almodovar. That's something I could see Charles getting to next year, but just because those two guys were similar, it was easy for Noblesville to sort of balance that, and I think that's why they were able to pull the win. Whereas I'm not too sure we would have been able to do so as well.
And that's a fair argument. You look at the regular season matchup between us. Obviously, you never want to lose on a buzzer beater, but it just comes down to poor defense. We played great defense up until that point, but then our inbound defense on the final play of the game just kind of shattered. So you can't take much out of that. It's just what happens. I think, me personally, I think it would have been different the second time around, even with I'm just getting hot. But life goes on. What happens, and you just got to learn to deal with it.
One name that we need to say real quickly here, Durante Morton.
Yes.
Next year,
Charge
man.
God.
My God.
This kid is going to be a force. He is as athletic as all get out. And, I think one thing that I really, like about him, and you sort of appreciate that watching IU and Trace Jackson Davis, but his ability to get off the floor, after he's already gotten off the floor,
Yeah.
jump, don't get the rebound, jump right back again, get that. He's like a pogo stick.
Pogo stick, trampoline, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's going to serve this team so well. And, I wouldn't say he's done growing either. So
No.
I would say he is probably the most dominant offensive rebounder on the whole team.
It's because he plays with so much energy. He plays with so much energy, which is what every basketball team needs.
And I don't know if this is crazy to say at all, but he could be the reason we beat Carmel, because he came away with, I would say, 2 or 3 very important offensive rebounds that we got second chance points off of. So to think that this guy is only a sophomore is crazy to me. He'll probably start next year. He'll probably start his senior year. Think 2 more years of growing for him, and he's already making a splash on varsity in sectionals and all this stuff. I can't wait to see him play.
it's going to be fun.
He's going to be one of the many returning players that I'm going to be like, wow, I cannot wait to watch him progress. So if we're looking at a lineup for next year in terms of who's returning, Trey, obviously returning, Charles, Durante. Those are the 3 surefire starters. Like, I would say confidently that they are starting. And Trey started this year, Charles started this year, Durante started the later half of this year.
I feel like you might be able to throw in Seth as like a 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Just
would
play a little smaller.
I would say so.
And then maybe step Carson Melvin up to a 5. Maybe.
Okay.
I think he would stay on the bench until proven. He would probably play Seth's role this year if he can just develop his 3-pointer a little bit more. But he's a lot more of a physical guy than Seth is. I'm trying to wonder who would play.
The only issue is with Carson is he'll likely be our starting quarterback next year.
That is true.
So he'll be coming off the football season and then straight into the basketball season, which is tough.
Which he's got to stay healthy for that smooth transition to happen.
And let's not forget here, 8th grader Vandergriff, 6'7", pretty polished for his age. I think he could find some minutes, especially if there's some uncertainty as to what the front court's going to be.
Yeah, I forgot about him.
Yeah,
he'll be a good addition.
Future of Westfield, wow, looking bright.
Future of Westfield looks very good, by the way. Both middle school teams are very good. You
thought last year was good. Just wait. Give it time. I just want to quickly run through just baseball schedule. We're going to be looking pretty good this year. We have a lot of returning starters in the field, and pitching wise, some notable ones that come into my mind are Seth Nana, Jacob Culp, Evan Rust, and Colin Lindsay. They will be the 4 most probably productive in their respective categories, and hitting and pitching, and fielding. Start off the regular season with a game versus North Central at Grand Park, and then we play, I believe, at Grand Park again versus Franklin Central. We have that series, and then over spring break we have this. Max Prep says 4 games, but I would assume it would be like maybe 3 or 4. We'll see. In Tennessee, that is their little trip for the year. We come back and we have a tough stretch where it's Cathedral, the Brownsburg series, away at Carmel, and then the Fisher series. which they are some of the better teams in the state. Cathedral and Fishers and Carmel are all in the top 10 in their class. Brownsburg is a little behind us. I believe they're 19th or 20th. Then Newcastle, Center Grove will be good. Lawrence Central, the Noblesville series, Pendleton Heights, Zionsville series, Columbus North, HSC series, Kokomo, Avon series, and then Jeffersonville. So I don't know how many games that is, but I'm assuming that's 24, 25 games. Yeah, I don't want to do record predictions right now. I want to see how that first game versus North Central goes. Mm-hmm. They're not always a hard opponent, but you never know with the team that we have. So we don't have a whole lot of returning starters in the field, let alone pitching. I believe the only returning starters that we'll have in the field are Braden Hebler, Colin Lindsay, and Evan Russ, if I'm not mistaken. So we're going to need to evaluate and judge our fielding and our pitching equally. But it's looking like a good season so far. Spirits are up. I feel like the team is very connected this year, and that'll bode for a very good season by the baseball team.
And, the first thing you ask after coming off of last year is, what's this pitching rotation going to look like? You lose Gage Stanifer to the Blue Jays. Literally the Blue Jays, right?
Yeah.
You lose Cade Robinson, who was, kind of a horse all year for us.
Matt Morris.
And even Cole Ballard.
And Cole Ballard got some reps in there too. Mm-hmm. So, I think there's certainly some guys. I think, Coach Bunnell does a really, really good job of getting underclassmen reps early. And we saw that with Jacob Culp. We saw that with Seth Nana, as well as Andrew Nicholson and, a variety of other guys. But I think that it's going to be something, important to watch early on in the season is how does that rotation sort of shape out, and, what can we expect from them? Because at the end of the day, the HCC is at one of its most dominant times in baseball that we've seen recently. And, in order to compete for that title, they're going to need to pitch well. And I certainly think that they have the pedigree to do that. It's just a matter of, actually getting it done.
I agree.
5 or 6 ACC teams in the top 20 in the state rankings now.
It's absolutely crazy.
Super competitive.
If you guys thought last year was very competitive in the HCC in terms of baseball, this year is going to be a whole nother animal, because Fishers is still dominant. Noblesville is going to be very, very good. We're going to be up there. Brownsburg is in the top 25 as well.
I think there's one team that's first. I think it's Noblesville.
I think it's actually Fishers.
Fishers
was dominant last year.
I
lost to Penn.
I think I saw Fishers was 6th.
They have the.
You're going to see the emergence of a lot of teams that you probably won't see, because they have these absolute animals that can either hit or pitch really well, and that's the beauty of baseball. You don't see a whole lot of dominance by one team every year, or like year in and year out. You don't see a whole lot of dominance by just one team. You see a lot of consistency, in the lower like 1A, 2A. But when it comes to 3A, 4A, every year it's a different state contender. So
I agree.
That's what I love about Indiana high school baseball. Are we going to get into our brackets now?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
The segment that I've been kind of looking forward to and dreading all week.
March Madness 2023. So
shaping up to be one of the best tournaments ever.
So the thing that makes this bracket so unique is this regular season in college basketball, probably the craziest, most wild season since all of us have been alive.
You could be a 16-point favorite and still lose.
Except for maybe the 8 seed UConn national championship year. But still, I honestly wouldn't even be surprised if a 16 seed takes down a 1 seed. It's really, it's crazy. I think I have so many upsets. I probably have more upsets than I do projected picks or higher seed wins. But boy, oh boy, let's dive into it. So Sam, First of all, who do you have as a dark horse in this tournament? Just highlight a couple teams that people might not think will make a big run that you think will make a run this year.
Yeah, so, typically I'm not a huge upset guy in general. I know that's unpopular, but, I like to make my picks based on
You analyze every stat whenever it comes to picking these sort of things.
Stats are big, yes. I think also just sort of, trying to get eyes on as many teams as I can during the regular season. That way you're comfortable with making picks when it comes down to it in March. However, a team I really like in the first round is the Furman Paladins.
So do I. I have them upsetting as well.
Yeah, Furman, they shoot the ball from three a ridiculous amount, but they're also one of the most efficient teams inside the arc. They score a ton of points. They win a lot of games. And I think, from what we've seen from Tony Bennett teams in March, obviously you have the national championship. However, you have losses to Ohio. You have lost to UMBC, as well as some losses early on there to 10-seed Syracuse. As much as we want to give credit to Tony Bennett and as much credit as he deserves for that national championship, he's got sort of a shaky track record in the NCAA tournament when it comes to those upsets. And I think that Furman is kind of in a good spot here to advance to the round of 32 to take on San Diego State in my bracket.
With Virginia, it's very hit or miss every single year. It's either you're winning the national championship or you're losing to UMBC. So I can really see it either way. I do personally have Furman upsetting Virginia. Do we want to go like each region, or do we just want to like?
We can do that. Just
Sure.
quickly summarize each.
I agree.
Each region.
So you want to
All
start?
right, yeah, I'll start. So I'm just gonna highlight some main matchups here, and teams that I have winning. First of all, like you said, Sam, I have Furman going to the Sweet 16, losing to Alabama, and that one shouldn't even be close if that matchup happens. I have University of California, Santa Barbara getting it done against the Baylor Bears.
You and Drew Wolf.
Missouri over Utah State. I would say probably 80% of the nation has that one. Obviously, Arizona is going to beat Princeton, but I would not be surprised if Princeton takes this one. They've had a very impressive season this year, champions of their conference.
Did you guys watch the Ivy League championship at all?
No.
Princeton came out in the second half and I think they went 5 for 5 in their first 5 3-point attempts, within the first 5 minutes.
Wow.
It was absolutely crazy. They shoot the ball at an incredible clip.
So the 8-9 matchup in this side of the bracket, Maryland and West Virginia. I have West Virginia. Maryland's not very good on the road, and obviously they're coming off of that double-digit loss against IU in the Big Ten tournament. It's going to be hard for them to, I feel get that momentum back, especially on the road. Well, I guess not on the road, but in a neutral site, away from home. I have Creighton getting it done against Missouri for a Alabama-Creighton matchup for the South region. I'm high on Creighton. I really like them, and I think they'll go far. I'm taking Creighton to win the South region and advance to the Final Four.
I don't have any upsets in the first round in this region. I do have Furman beating Virginia. And then we look at the round of 32, Alabama beating Maryland, San Diego State beating Furman, Creighton beating Baylor, which that's an upset. I'm really high on Creighton as well. And then Arizona beating Missouri. In the Sweet 16, I have Alabama beating San Diego State and Arizona beating Creighton. I know it's a little bit of an anticlimactic Elite Eight, but I do have Alabama beating Arizona, so they will advance to the Final Four from the South region.
Okay, I like it. I think we're all decently similar here. Got Bama, West Virginia, San Diego State, Furman, Creighton, Baylor, Utah State, Arizona. Now, picking two Mountain West teams to win their first round games is scary.
Yes.
Haven't won a game in a few years in the tournament. However, I think
They're due.
I think San Diego State matches up well against Charleston, as well as Utah State with Missouri.
San Diego State is very experienced.
Yeah.
They have one of the older rosters in the tournament. So
Yeah, and they did a good job of giving themselves games in November and December that are going to translate to tournament time.
yeah.
Obviously playing in Maui and
Mhm.
other non-conference games like that. Bama, San Diego State, and Creighton, Arizona in the Sweet 16. Pretty chalky here, but Bama, Arizona, and then I'm going with Arizona. I think amid all the controversy with Alabama, it's
It's going to get to them a little bit.
it's hard to rule that out as a factor. Plus, Arizona sort of has that chip on their shoulder from last year. Taking a tough loss to Houston in the Sweet 16, and I think they're ready to avenge themselves. And certainly their metrics would say that they're capable of doing so. And with the addition of a guy like Courtney Ramey, who has had plenty of experience in the tournament, as well as the ability to hit big shots throughout his career, I think that's going to serve them well. So I got Arizona to the 4.
All right. The Midwest. I will start this one off because it is hectic, and I feel like I'm going to have to do a lot of explaining. Houston over Northern Kentucky. The Norse going down to Houston early. Auburn beating Iowa. That is a home game for Auburn. It is being played in Birmingham. You cannot ask for a better first round location if you are Auburn. Miami beating Drake. I know a lot of people have this MVC dark horse beating Miami, but I do not see that happening. I have Kent State beating Indiana. This is not biased. This is solely because Kent State had to do a lot to win the MAC. They had to shoot incredibly well, and they beat a Toledo team that, frankly, would have made the tournament. Even I don't know how they didn't make the tournament in the first place, even with the loss in that championship. I have Iowa State beating Pittsburgh. I'm a little surprised Mississippi State did not win last night. Xavier beating Kennesaw State. I know some people have that upset as well, but I'm high on Xavier this year. Penn State beating Texas A&M. I have this pick for a couple reasons. One, I really like the way Jalen Pickett plays. Two, I had a heart attack on Sunday night watching that Big Ten championship, and I'm not afraid to admit that. Penn State is a very good team. They will catch you whenever you think you're just fine. And then I have Texas beating Colgate.
So for my Midwest region, I have a couple upsets. Obviously, I have Houston taking down the Norse in that first round. I have Iowa beating Auburn. Chris Murray is playing out of this world right now. He is playing up to his brother's standards. There's just something about this Drake team this year that's really special about them. And Miami, Florida, they played like the best team in the nation a couple weeks ago, but now they're starting to fall off a little bit. You can tell they're losing that momentum, starting to fatigue a little bit later in the season.
Norchad O'Meara down. Got hurt in the ACC tourney.
Give me Drake in that one. Indiana, Kent State. I would put Kent State if they had someone that could even be close to guarding Trace Jackson Davis. They don't really have a big man to really contain him, and Trace Jackson Davis was electric in the tournament last year against in their play-in game. Obviously, they didn't do well against St. Mary's, but
they might pull the IU.
This is a whole nother Trace Jackson Davis this year. Add Jalen Hood-Schifino on there. Add a developed Trey Galloway, a Miller Cobb, Race Thompson. Give me the Hoosiers. Iowa State's beating Pittsburgh. Kennesaw State will get it done against 3-seed Xavier. Xavier's coming off the absolute pounding loss against Marquette in the Big East Championship. Texas A&M is going to get it done versus Penn State just because you highlighted Jalen Pickett, Evan. I really don't think he'll be that good. If you limit him, if you guard him well in the paint, he's not doing anything. I think he only had 6 to 8 points in the Purdue game. He only had 2 points in the second half. If he's not on his game, Penn State loses. Texas is going to beat Colgate. One upset I do want to pinpoint in here is Iowa over Houston. Houston's playing without Marcus Sasser. That's really going to hurt them because Marcus Sasser is a probably second overall pick in this year's draft.
He might actually be back by the time that they play. I've heard some stuff.
I think he
around
will
that.
be.
Yeah, probably. But if he doesn't play,
if he needs to, limit himself that first game. It's not a really big opponent, and you don't want to re-aggravate the injury. So,
I have Kennesaw State over Iowa State in the second round. I have Kennesaw State losing to Texas in the Sweet 16, though. So give me IU and Texas in the Midwest Championship. I have Texas taking that. Texas is probably, besides Alabama and Houston, they're probably the most national championship built team in the tournament. And UCLA. It's really hard to count the Longhorns out this year. They have very good depth, very good shooters, very good big men. It's going to be fun to watch them play this year. And, yeah, Texas to the 4.
Yeah, I got Houston, Auburn, Miami, Indiana, chalky. Very, very chalky, pretty much all across the board.
Yeah.
Iowa State, Xavier, Texas A&M, Texas, Sweet 16, Houston over IU. Had to do it, but I think out of courtesy, you gotta advance your favorite team automatically to the Sweet 16, just because you wouldn't be able to live with yourself if they did advance there and you didn't pick that. And then I got Texas, Iowa State over Xavier. Some may see it as an upset. I don't really think so, despite the fact Iowa State is without Caleb Grill. And then I got Houston over Texas, Houston to the 4. Running out of time here, so why don't we just say our
Hey, let just chill out a little bit. We can be a little late to class. I don't condone this for anyone else, but I mean, unless you really need to be in class today,
I'll be fine.
Okay, we're still gonna learn all of our content, ladies and gentlemen. We're not gonna be poor students and not do our work.
Do you think we'll get a pass?
Yeah, we can get a pass.
Okay.
Maybe cut that out, but yeah. I need to finish my Midwest picks. Houston will beat Auburn. Miami will beat Kent State. Iowa State will beat Xavier. I do like Iowa State this year as well. And Penn State will beat Texas. That is, if they make it that far, they're not going to lose to Texas.
No.
If they make it that far, they're not going to lose to Texas.
No.
I do have Penn State.
That is the dumbest pick I have ever heard.
Hey, you know what? It's March Madness for a reason.
That is true. That is true.
Madness.
I like that.
We've seen crazier picks before.
I like it, but then again, if Jalen Pickett isn't well, if
they could lose to Texas A&M.
Who's number 10 on Penn State?
Funk.
Yeah, if he doesn't shoot well, that's all he does is shoot threes. He didn't shoot well against Purdue. I mean, and it resulted in a loss. So, yeah,
Nearly
I don't know.
though.
He was in a funk.
Yeah.
That's good.
Nice.
To the East. Oh, yeah, you still have to pick.
I have Houston beating Miami, and then Iowa State beating Penn State, and then I have Houston beating Iowa State. I know it's a little lame to have 2 1 seeds in the Final Four, but I mean, you try and be as predictable as you can be, but no one's bracket has ever been perfect.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
East.
To the East, obviously Purdue is going to beat whoever is the 16th seed.
Are we sure?
I don't know.
Okay, all right.
We have Memphis. Okay, I changed my bracket from the sports show, so if you watch the sports show, it's not updated. Please, for the love of God, stop hyping up Oral Roberts. They are playing a red-hot Duke team that is finally starting to get in their stride with their new head coach. I have Duke going to the Final Four. Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns, are going to beat Tennessee. I'm sorry, Sam. Providence is going to upset the Kentucky Wildcats, even with Oscar Tshiebwe. Providence has been red hot. They have the Kentucky transfer too.
Yes.
Little reunion there. Kansas State is going to be too much for almost any team in this bracket. Keontae Johnson, one of the best players in the nation. Michigan State's going to beat USC. Michigan State's also going to upset Marquette in round 2. Kansas State is going to beat Providence. Memphis, our first 1 seed's going to be out in the second round. I do have Memphis over Purdue. They average more points a game, and they give up less points a game by 5 in each stat.
Stats don't matter in the tournament.
Memphis is just the most physical, probably one of the most physical teams in the tournament. And Purdue, if 2 freshman guards, not good necessarily on the road, haven't been in the best form. I think 4-4 to end out their season, maybe 5-4. Purdue's also out of all their tournament appearances, they're 7-9 in the tournament, and they're 3-5 against non-Power 5 teams. St. Peter's, we know last year was one of those teams. Give me Memphis in that game. Duke's going to beat Memphis. Duke and Kansas State in this one. Give me Duke. And that'll make a Creighton-Duke matchup in the Final Four on that side.
Fun.
That's wild. I have Purdue winning first round. Hardy, hard. They might lose, whatever. I also have FAU beating Memphis. Now, FAU, one of the best shooting teams in the country, despite their, they play in a nobody conference, whatever. They're still one of the best shooting teams in the country. They will overpower Memphis easily. I know you don't like Oral Roberts winning, but Oral Roberts will beat Duke. Mark my words, as there's the 9:05 bell. Oral Roberts will beat Duke. Trust me, it will happen. Max A. Smith we trust, and that 7-foot guy as well.
I mean, we do this every year. We have like this 12 seed that everyone thinks is going to win the national championship.
Well,
and
I
then
feel like
lose in
that's
the first
Drake
round.
for a lot of people. I feel like I feel like people are oddly high on Drake.
I have them
And
winning one game.
and I don't know why.
Oral's getting a lot of hype too.
Yes, they are.
not
They
kid
are.
ourselves.
Well, it's because the legend of what happened last year, 2 years ago, I believe.
2 years ago.
Yeah, I remember.
Last year it was St. Peter's. The year before that it was Oral Roberts.
I wanted to pick Louisiana versus Tennessee, but I don't think Tennessee's going to lose that one. So I'll go with Tennessee in that one. Providence will beat Kentucky. Oscar Sheboy can only do so much. Kansas State will beat Montana State. USC will beat Michigan State. I don't know why. I really like that USC matchup versus Michigan State. I feel like they'll do really well. And then Marquette's going to beat Vermont. Round of 32, Purdue will not lose to FAU. We beat them in football. We can beat them in basketball.
Wait, you have FAU beating Memphis?
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
It's March Madness. I don't know. Well, a lot of people won't be sure about these picks. If you look at a random person's bracket, you'll be like, how did you have that in almost half the matchups? But
Yeah.
That's the beauty of March Madness. There's a lot of variety. There's a billion different, bracket combinations that you can make. I have Oral Roberts beating Tennessee. Sorry, Volunteers, but you are voluntold to go home. Again, in Max A. Smith we trust. Providence will beat Kansas State. This is where the madness really starts. Well, it's started already, but Providence, I'm, again, really high on them out of the Big East. And then Marquette will beat USC pretty easily. I have Marquette having a very easy path to the Final Four, and you'll see
They
why.
do, but they're also a tad overrated, I would say.
Well, they come from the Big East, which isn't the most competitive conference, but
Yeah.
in terms of basketball, they have been very productive the last couple of years. I have Oral Roberts beating Purdue in the Sweet 16. I know you can, as a fan of a certain team, you can never have that matchup, that nightmare matchup happening, but Purdue has a tendency, and I said this in the sports show, which it'll come out tomorrow. I don't know when this is going to be airing, but Purdue has a very bad tendency to lose to teams that they should not lose to. North Texas, not Oral Roberts. Well, maybe Oral Roberts. We'll see. St. Peter's. Whenever we were in 9 seed or whenever we were in 8 seed, we lost to Cincinnati one year. We should not be losing to these teams, and we are. And it's a gut feeling as a Purdue fan. You know your team very well. You just see these matchups happening. And then in the East Final, I have Marquette beating Oral Roberts, which means Marquette will have to beat a 15 seed, a 10 seed, an 11 seed, and a 12 seed. That's just crazy, but that's March Madness.
Easiest path in the bracket.
In the bracket, of course. Sam, have you gone over your picks yet?
Yeah, this region's a little bit incomplete. I try to be pretty methodical with my bracket, which, a lot of chalk, like I said. But
Yeah.
Purdue, Memphis, Duke, Tennessee, Providence, Kansas State, Michigan State, Marquette. I have.
Really, you have Michigan State winning.
I do. Yep.
Elaborate on that.
It's Tom Izzo.
USC is always gets quite a bit of praise heading into the tournament.
Yeah.
We've seen it the last few years, and rightfully so. 2020 they advanced to the 16 or to the Elite 8, I think. But I think without a dominant big man this year, they're gonna be hard to. It's gonna be hard for them to
Find success.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So then I got Memphis over Purdue,
Of course.
Duke over Tennessee, Providence over Kansas State, and Michigan State over Marquette.
So you have all upsets in the round of 32.
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow.
Which is good. Duke, Michigan State in the 8, and then Duke to the 4.
That's who I
This
have
team
as
reminds me a lot of UNC last year. First year
Yeah.
head coach. They have younger guys, but they also have some
Filipowski.
veteran experience, toughness with transfers that they brought in. And I think that out of all my Final Four teams, this region's just kind of I don't want to say a joke, but it's kind of a joke.
It's not as power heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Duke to the 4.
For our West, I'm just going to go really quick here. Here are my picks. Kansas, Arkansas, VCU over St. Mary's, UConn over Iona, TCU, Gonzaga, Northwestern over Boise State, and UCLA. In the second round, Kansas over Arkansas. Arkansas is good and young. They have Anthony Black and Walsh, but I don't think they'll be good enough for Kansas. I have VCU upsetting 4 UConn, TCU upsetting 3 Gonzaga, UCLA beating 7 Northwestern. In the West semifinal, I have Kansas beating 12 seed VCU, which should be already written up, and then 2 UCLA beating 6 TCU, and then I have 2 UCLA beating 1 Kansas for the West region to go to the 4, which makes my Final Four Creighton versus Duke and Texas versus UCLA.
Wow. Believe it or not, this is the only side of the bracket that has no upsets for the first 2 rounds. So Kansas, Arkansas, St. Mary's, UConn, TCU, Gonzaga, Northwestern, and UCLA will all win. And then the higher seed, Kansas, UConn, Gonzaga, and UCLA will all win. I have Kansas beating UConn and Gonzaga beating UCLA. I know for the sake of Aiden's bracket, I won't reveal who he picked, but I'm pretty sure I know who he picked unless you changed it.
I think I changed it.
You changed it? Okay.
Yeah.
Because originally you had UCLA winning. But I have Gonzaga beating UCLA, and then Kansas beating UConn, Gonzaga beating Kansas, and Gonzaga and Houston will play in that side of the Final Four, and Alabama and Marquette will play on their side.
Okay. So we each have a different winner in this region. We got Kansas, Arkansas. That'll be a really good game. Second round. UConn, VCU, TCU, Gonzaga, UCLA, Northwestern.
What's the hype about VCU? Virginia Commonwealth. What am I missing?
I think it's just more fear with St. Mary's.
That's fair.
Yeah. They had a top 60 strength of schedule in the nation, and being in a not Power 5 conference and still only having 7 losses is very respective and impressive.
That's true.
They have very athletic, and they're also very experienced. VCU is. I think that goes a long way.
Especially in the tournament.
Yep. Kansas, UConn, UCLA, TCU in the Sweet 16. Kansas, UCLA, that's another 1-2 matchup. And then Kansas to the Final Four.
Respect it.
Grady Dick, go do your thing. All right.
So, Final Fours, real quick. Creighton versus Duke for me. I have Duke advancing to the national championship. We thought we would get rid of them this season, but nope. Texas versus UCLA, the 2 seeds battle for the national championship. I'm going to go Texas. The more built roster, even though UCLA's depth is crazy with Jacques and everybody on there. Texas Duke national championship. When was the last time a first-time head coach ever won the national championship? Probably almost never.
The first
Almost
time.
last year.
Almost last
Yeah,
year with
almost.
Hubert Davis.
But they choked so hard.
But got to give me the Longhorns. Like I said earlier, they're probably have the most built roster for a national championship in this tournament. And I don't know. I really like Texas this year, and I feel like the orange and white will hoist the trophy.
Gonzaga, I have them beating Houston just for the sake of chaos, because there can only be one seed remaining, and that 1 seed is Alabama. Alabama will beat Marquette, and then Alabama will beat Gonzaga. Final score 84-75. Bama wins it. Brandon Miller silences all the haters.
Arizona over Duke. Houston over Kansas. I got Houston over Arizona in the national championship. This team was the most sound all year, and amidst all the chaos, I it's hard to really say one team is the favorite, but I think that this team is shown in the past that they have the toughness and the resilience and the star power to get to the Final Four. And I think this is going to be their year to pull it out. So I got Houston.
This might be the dumbest question I've ever asked on this podcast, but Marcus Sasser comes back from an injury, wins the national championship. Does that catapult him over Victor Wembanyama for the first overall pick in the draft?
No.
Is he even is he a first round projected guy?
Yeah, he's second overall projected.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. No, Wembanyama, he's once in a generation.
Yeah, that is true.
That he is. Wow.
He could be on bust watch though.
He could.
He reminds me of Chet Holmgren a lot.
Yeah.
Which we don't know if Chet Holmgren's a bust yet or not.
Because he's injured, or he injured himself. Is he out for the whole year? Did he? I remember seeing. Yeah. That's just tough. You hate to see that with the younger guys, especially the ones that have a lot of upside and a lot of good potential, but just you'll have to wait to see how they perform.
Especially for a team like the Thunder who needs that.
Who needs that now?
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of teams are like that in a win now situation, but
yeah.
We'll see.
Well, sweet. Good stuff, guys. A lot of topics we covered today. It was fun as always, and we hope that you guys enjoy the rest of your week and enjoy some time, sit on the couch and
watch the game,
eat some popcorn,
yes,
watch some March Madness,
and we can also review some games, key points as well.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
We'll update you guys through the bracket.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you guys for listening. Take care and peace.
Peace.